I'm going to try this again. Every time I try to make these videos, my heart starts beating fast. I start sweating out my shirts and I feel like I'm going to throw up. I'm making this as a response video to a voice crying in the wilderness. It's basically one of the second or third people that I started coming out about their experiences with the underground bases. Basically just making it to support everything. You should check out his videos, The Voice Crying in the Wilderness, on YouTube. He's seen Donald there. I have too. And we've had our own experiences that are like games. If I could talk to him, I guess, or respond to him. What initially caused me to make this is that you described an experience with climbing a ladder or something, and then probably the idea was to get the kids to fall versus having them climb somewhere, and basically another point to it. I guess I just want to support that. I already posted something on your page, a comment. I had the same thing. It wasn't a ladder, it was either a replica or the actual location. I'm not sure. I'll post a picture of these. I don't know where they actually are. They're basically monk steps carved into the rock, and there's like an easy path that you go up to the side, and it's like stairs, and then there's a direct path up the rocks, which is literally like steps in ladder form up a steep rock face. I remember climbing that and falling the fuck back down and hitting my head, waking up to them doing something and then getting put back. Maybe they were just trying to test people that would have the courage to climb high, but then why would all the kids be allowed to get hurt? What's the point of that? Was there clones? I'm not sure, but the same basic experience was basically played out. And there was tons of other, as you probably know. They're all mind games, though. The same thing with the impersonation of the savior as a man, and then getting that person torn up by a lizard, or however they do the show when they make these fucking games. It's obviously a metaphor they're trying to put out into people's minds, so they don't trust basically their own internal peace, Christ and love. I'm going to start making more videos. I do think we're at the point where we can understand these things, and if we're not, then it's just going to keep happening again anyway, so we have to at least try. But it comes down to energy systems in the mind, and the heart chakra, and the sacral chakra, and the root, and basically destabilizing the root, activating the sacral sexual energies, and then destabilizing or traumatizing, shutting down the heart through traumatization of what you don't want, and then basically brainwashing people to get their mind into that state to the point where it's accepted, the power that one feels from that is accepted, and then basically that's what they've been doing to the world, that's what they've been doing to people down there, that's what the people that are doing this to the world carry. They don't have the heart chakra, otherwise they wouldn't be participating in it. But it's a very specific method, process, but they just play it out in many different strategies and ways of performing it and getting us to participate. We don't actually have to participate in any way. Mind, body, or heart or soul, you can just project the whole experience, but that's how they get us. They, you were very close to things they hold in front of you, religious symbols, anything that you feel close to your heart. That's how they get you. They draw you in through that. So we all have to get smarter. Realize it's basically a form of hypnotism that they've been perfecting, and that our whole biblical story and understanding might be literally this mass hypnotism process from throughout the ages, basically being performed by another race, or a race that wasn't created by the being that created us. I do think the being, the God of humans, and all of us, and probably all things, maybe the world, there's other ways to look at it, that the space-time creator was an energy, and the creator of the world was a loving being that made like a playground for people to grow and share. That it was all based upon love and thought energy. That's like the basic of what I got from the experiences. I have 16 years of experiences, but they do come out more when I get hints at it. But definitely the climbing thing, whatever that was, and a whole bunch of other things with Donald. I just wanted to put that out there. I'll put more. Thanks for watching if you did, and thanks for putting all the videos out for people that are putting these out. I get comfortable a few minutes after talking, but I swear I could just like throw up at the first moment, so I guess I gotta get over it. Thank you, and I'll see you again. The people that are in control, what you call the powers that be, are basically a conglomeration of all the various sects and orders that have existed throughout the ages. They basically have virtually unlimited funding and political power. What the recent tech they've been working on, what they've gotten up to this far is they call it the soul stealer technology, the soul catcher. It with a 4D, four-dimensional map of the brain, they can create a holographic chip that contains all the information of a person's memories of their personality. It apparently takes a lot of multiple supercomputers and even 0-point devices that I'm not fully aware of right now. That the computers run off these devices, so it's literally almost unlimited power. It's hard to understand. Apparently, if you have a few of these devices in the right alignment, you could technically just blow the whole fucking world up. You can make it disappear. They're not planning on doing that or anything like that, but this is the type of power it is, and that's what, that's why it's kind of difficult, I guess, for humanity to even come to this point, because we have to go through the process of learning how to handle our power, or we'll bring out the worst out of everything. So yeah, the DNA replication and the complete mind-brain mapping to create a chip is basically a four-dimensional map of the entire brain and central nervous system and body. And with that, they can do full-on replication cloning, where they completely recreate a human form. There's so much information to talk about. With all the bad stuff that can be talked about, there's basically the events of all this technology, these progressions and advances, and basically in the I guess the 60s or 70s, the Navy figured out with these electromagnetic devices around the brain, and I don't know how far it goes into that other than that, but they figured out how to activate the DNA in the brain completely, and it unleashes full 100% capacity. They found out all the movies, if you want to go there, they found out how to really do it. What this equated to is going into a device or putting a helmet on, and your consciousness would be transferred into some type of electromagnetic waveform or something, and you basically could travel throughout space at first, and then time itself. You could travel through time in a chair. It's a trip chair or trip helmet, however it went through phases, just like everything else will. It's weird that they call the clones Mark 1, 2, and 3, and 4, because it's just like the car or something. But I guess that's how they're breaking it down, which is mechanically. But with all the strangeness, there are a lot of good things that have happened and I've experienced, and we're catalyzing of true awareness out of the fear and darkness, which is another sacred process altogether. But this mechanical device actually beams electromagnetic waves into your brain and allows you to, they say it unlocks your full capacity of your brain. That's why I say we're reality generators. Doing this, they weren't hallucinating. Nobody that went into it and hallucinated, and you come back and you don't know what it was. You go into another world, and it's not like in your head you have a dream, like you travel to. When the people came back, when I came back, when anybody went through there comes back, and if they made it, because the adults basically, it was harder to come back, it's harder to come back. It's the whole scrambled eggs thing. Our reports were taken as if it were extraterrestrial contact, as if it were 100%, depending on where you went and what you saw. Because you can just create any type of experience, in your mind. That's the capacity of the mind. But then if you're actually operating within the electromagnetic grid of the earth and whatever extends into and beyond that, into, what we call time, this toroid of energy that's basically swirling from every point in space, it's actual time travel. You can see, that's how basically the first effects are that you see the future of your existence, and they can tune it in to push you forward or further, and you can take over and guide it yourself. but you see the different possible realities of existence, and this also wasn't the culmination of the type of spiritual death experience that I experienced in 2010. This was actually somewhere around 1999, and a little bit after that. And they're doing tests. They were, I'm sure they are now. I know it's changed a lot, and I know a lot of people didn't want to continue doing it, and there's a lot of resistance because I know of at least one person that they say hasn't fully returned and came back. So, I mean, it's not scrambled eggs, but I guess he was a little bit far off worse than I was. I was pretty much dismayed over a lot of the things that happened around that time and after, including these types of damage control projects that they put the kids into that that are become like a wild card afterwards or something like that. They have to control, I guess, it's part of it, as well as that got out of control, controlling people, and it's from the elite using this technology to basically play the dark role, play the enforcer, play the oppressor, but it got out of hand because it took on so many levels of reality that you couldn't really imagine. They basically can create artificial dimensions and take people there and play out whatever type of psychological experiment they want. And a lot of the knowledge behind this comes from the Nazis from World War II, so it's a lot of psychological experimentation, if not the genetic manipulation. It all has these type of archonic religious undertones because I guess they think and they know that that's just the easiest way to get to it. So there's at least one person that didn't fully come back from the device, but it is what they call a time travel device. It teaches you many things. You enhance your consciousness and you see that. But that's what would happen first. You would see your possibilities and whatever would happen as a result of that, which is why it's basically so dangerous, is that if you see a possibility that you don't want and you kind of enhance it and can't get out of your head, the only thing that ever happens from that is when you return, you'll take the steps to create that possibility. There's a big problem. It's almost like a fucking nightmare device at that point. And it depends on you see whatever your own consciousness is tuned to, it just enhances it. So, if you had a bad day, it wouldn't be the best thing to do to go in there. And you can see how adults going into there without proper understanding of what was going to happen would come back like they've seen horrors. And they'd probably then go and create it in their lives. It's like a magnetic attraction. Once you see it, if you base your actions off of that to try and avoid it, almost like any story involving time travel, honestly, it'll create it. You'll unwittingly, unknowingly create it. It's accidental almost, but it does happen. That was what they noticed. And again, I said in the other video, a lot of them, the soldiers would go back or go forward and see the end of the world, basically World War III. The whole 2012, all these lecturers and insiders coming out talking about stuff, that was literally that when you go, what would happen is when you go into the device and you go far enough into the future, I guess, everyone that goes that far reaches a singularity. And it's a singularity of space, time, and consciousness to the point where it is perceived by those that go into the device and see it as literally a singularization of all the things we know as existence, space, time, and consciousness. Meaning it looks like everything just becomes one big world of light. And I'm not sure if that's connected to what they saw as far as the end of the world type situation, or whether that was maybe what they were pulling out of that, or seeing that and connecting with in their own realm. But that is basically where it all went to, because in the end, that's what you would do. I mean, I wouldn't have done any of that, but that's what they instructed you to do, and that's what their line of reasoning is, that, well, we went far enough, so let's go farther, and just to go to the end of time, to see to the far future, see what's going to happen. It's both the worst thing you could imagine and the greatest thing ever. All of space-time and consciousness becomes one essence. But that no one knows what that means, because no one knows if it's just the inevitable end, if it's a point of 0 point release, and our collective consciousness basically becomes immortal. But with our physical identities, No one knows what it means, but that's the mystery behind all of it. Those are a little bit of the experiments that were going on. Where at least us two now is that the control group for that, all these secret projects, they basically have this power to go around, operate in and out of time, basically teleport themselves into any location and operate and influence a person's mind. They got a little out of hand. The gang stalking is from that. The mind control extending into just the general population and celebrities is a part of that. This brings me to my other point. The whole point with Donald Marshall and the celebrities is all real. It's actually very serious. I seen the same things. The celebrities basically need help. They want to get out of this situation. The people that began this project were the elite. They used the Nazi technology. They used the science behind it to gather people basically that they thought they could provide themselves with a little bit of amusement with. I hate to say it like that, but they found talented individuals, these celebrities, these artists, models, whatever, and they give them this deal with all the power that you can imagine. And when, the deal is that their DNA goes into the archive and their bodies get used in a variety of ways. It's very high technology, and they figured out how to time travel. It's all in the consciousness, the way it works, electromagnetic waves, bending space and time, bending your consciousness wave to literally infinity. Which can also, if you don't know how to do it, that's why people come back crazy, scrambled eggs. You just imagine a fucking infinity of confusion or, time, and you just go off for, a few hours, year, month, in a parallel reality or a mentally born hallucination, because that can happen too. It's not good. They really didn't explain all the details too, but they didn't want to taint the experience and have you then think of a comic book or a movie or something and then go into it. They just tell you, alright, focus, and turn the energy up and you fucking shoot off. But they have that, and then Soul Catcher Tech. They developed that. You record all your consciousness onto a chip, record all your memories, record everything. You can see through your eyes. We're in a big scalar grid. All the aluminum in the atmosphere is basically part of this AI system that is being constructed, that if we're plugged into it, it'll make all your decisions for you mentally. You won't have any way to overcome that unless your spirit overpowers your brain chemistry, which has to happen through that fear switch, when all the fear of the brain chemistry is pumping, and you willfully turn it in the other direction. People without that won't have any natural defense to a mind-to-mind scalar grid around the whole entire planet. And then if they have the possibility, they're going to do what they want with that power. They're going to make chaos reign. And out of that chaos, they're going to walk up the little ordered steps and stand on top again. That's just how it's going for thousands of years. But they probably won't come back into the civilized form. Not civilized, but they won't come back into houses and buildings and mansions. They'll probably just set up some other system and they'll be traveling space and time, trying to colonize other locations. So, or dimensions, if you will, because it's mostly what it is. So you really gotta think about that. If you don't take it from me, if you think I'm being funny, just look around and read up on the Navy projects. 'Cause that's kind of what started all this. It gave them the power to go in at a time, see what's going to happen, and then organize plans, like retroactively almost, but before the events happen, because they're using this technology. So they're always 10, 20 steps ahead of everybody doing anything here, which is also why they couldn't speak out. I'm just going to say it. Anybody in there, if they spoke out, as soon as they decided within them to speak out, it would show up on a grid or a device or whatever it is, and they could see that our timeline was going to be influenced by somebody influencing that project. And they could literally narrow it down so they see what person did what and who did where, and this time go and whack that person. It never happens. So honestly, all the people getting whacked, that's what it is. They all plan to speak out. And if you see little hints leading up to it, and you think that's what it's for, that's not what it's for. It's because what they were gonna do after that. That's why it's kind of scary. Why are we here? I already told you. And why not? Why the fuck not? You do whatever you do. I don't know. Why are you here? We're all here for a purpose. That's why. Just pay attention. There's more of this is going to come out from here on out. It's all applied. None of this is theoretical. It's all applied. It's all, you walk into a room,
You know, you're supposed to sign a fucking waiver, but that's not how it works when it's national security. Because they really wanted to avoid the apocalypse. Hopefully we did. I think we did, because they understood it, that if you access it, what can we do to change it? We're going to create it. So they basically started to work with it and create a better system. For that to complete itself, this has to come out, and the elite who have a lot of power are basically using the system and as well power to control and torture people that might speak out about it, so it's fucking way beyond amusement. That's going to keep growing and growing and growing, because they're building an AI consciousness system, a technology, a consciousness, you know, an actual artificial intelligence that can rule the world, that can be turned on with this grid and the 0-point generators and would never shut off, and it would have power over our minds. That's all it needs. It doesn't, period. They already have them anyway. It's a consciousness system. It would beam out, you know, boom. It's beaming out, and then everybody's oppressed, told to go and fucking lock yourself in the closet, whatever it is. If you don't have the ability to overcome that, it'll just happen. That's how it works. And then they have the time travel technology, so then those that do resist that are specifically managed. But in the same sense, this is in accordance with some type of great supreme being, that we can't die, and that we're supposed to wake up. And even those ones doing these torture rituals, some say deep down inside they actually want us to wake up, and they're good, and they're trying to help, and it's an ancient spiritual alchemical process. But in the same sentence, they might also give in and be like, yeah, it kind of got out of control. These people aren't really supposed to be taking it that far. But with the power and the money and the way it's all gone down, that's just how it is. And so that's a little bit about that. It is important. It is fight for help with celebrities. All the ones Donald mentioned, and mentioned Donald Marshall, him, all the ones he mentioned, and more. Go put on TV. I don't want to say names yet because it's dangerous. Flip 30 channels. You'll see 10 of the celebrities that I've seen speak out to me personally and other people there that this needs to be stopped, and their genetics are cloned and they can't get out of it because it's consciousness. And so if you were to be agree to get used as a clone every once in a while, okay, but there's a lot of people there wanting to do this, and there's really not a lot of people ruling the world. It's literally a handful of people. But these people aren't going to wait and say, okay, next week I'll come back and you can do what you want with my body. No, they want it every night, all day, now. So that's fucked up. That's slavery on many levels, beyond just the talent aspect. And that's really what it's all about. Because if they weren't speaking out about it and doing something, honestly, we wouldn't be here to begin with. And that would probably be real fucked up. So just think about that. Thank you. I seen the same things. The celebrities basically need help. They want to get out of this situation. The people that began this project were the elite. They used the Nazi technology. They used the science behind it to gather people, basically, that they thought they could provide themselves with a little bit of amusement with. I hate to say it like that, but they found talented individuals, these celebrities, these artists, you know, models, whatever, and they give them this deal with all the power that you can imagine. And when, you know, the deal is that their DNA goes into the archive and their bodies get used in a variety of ways. It's true. The celebrities can't speak out for themselves. The kids that were down there to get basically re-educated, that's what it is. If you want to learn about those conspiracy theories talking about re-education, well, that's the worst they could do to you, is tie you up and hit you with electromagnetic devices that alter your brain function until you don't remember who you are anymore. They all get the treatment. Everybody gets the treatment. They can't speak out. They can't do anything about it. They also have lives, and, you know, I have a life, but they have $1 million lives and fans and this, that, and the other, reputations and careers, and so they don't want to sacrifice it all, knowing they might just get swept under the rug like anybody else. And there are others that spoke out before. They speak out through their symbols and their music. That's what you have to look for. It's all over the media, and anyone involved is going to be hinting at it somehow. That's what all these symbols and hints are about. To go even deeper, since they have this consciousness technology, they're making an archive, basically, and they're basically drawing up everybody's neural information into the archive so that they can basically create a mirror image of reality and use that almost like a Noah's Ark in a way to achieve immortality. Basically trade out and form three-dimensional, perfect 4D informational copies of whatever body they need, whatever person, and inhabit these bodies kind of like gods. It sounds crazy, almost biblical, but it's what they're doing, and all the different changes in the media and the celebrities and this, that, and the other is related to it. The cloning is coming out. They've been doing it for so long now that companies are getting involved with supplying the goods and just handling it all, managing it. It's kind of mind-blowing to think about it, but basically that's what they're doing. Our timeline problems are reality problems with economy, truth about what's going on in the atmosphere, and then turning the whole sky into a big internet grid, Ethernet, and then basically trying to recreate the astral realm for themselves in technological form. It kind of threw off our timeline. It threw off the possibilities of what everybody would do to achieve and know themselves. So what's ultimately happening is that an artificial timeline has been created through these effects, because they can see time in the future, and they're literally guiding us as a species into either complete mechanism, automation, but machination or whatever, but or we're gonna basically become impervious to these techniques, and that's like the last hope we have. If we realize our soul energy, it can't be altered. Basically, altering DNA doesn't alter the soul energy. They can't actually alter the soul. It's from another dimension or another universe, however you want to look at it. Honestly, it's from the sun. The sun is a big, it's the source of all things, so if we were to go to it and merge with it, we would merge with the beginning and the end of time all together at once. But if we can't really hold together in spiritual form and energetic form, it would be like a big recycler, and we'd either get spit out or split up completely and take time to come back together or something. We wouldn't end up on the other side, basically. Probably get sprayed back down upon the earth and grow and live again. The moon is, in a way, a recycler. It will attract and absorb the memories and negative experiences and essentially wipe them and recycle the energy. They've been using these systems to control humanity since the beginning of time. At this point, they can use the sun as a portal to travel to other areas of space and time. They literally wait for the sun to rotate around to the point where the planet or whatever it is, and it's in the right alignment or frequencies, and they shoot into the sun using these gravitic drive or propulsion or whatever crafts, and depending on the angle and the speed and the time, they go into a different point in time and space. All of them go there. Inside the crafts, it's like a little town, it's a little village. The craft itself could be 30, 40 feet, across. You can bend space, so it could be a friggin' high-rise building in there. It's really, really weird, but that's the technology that's released around now. Look at the ancient Egyptian symbolism, all the Egyptian gods Ra, Amun-Ra, Hotep, Isis, Osiris, Horus. They're all from the ancient religious principles, the Egyptian principles, which actually reflect into all our modern religions and ancient orders of gnosis and knowledge. And the ancient orders, they were hunted by the original religious authority, basically Catholic authority. These were just people studying gnosis and ancient knowledge, basically the truth about cymatics and energy and consciousness, truth about consciousness being the source, and us being generators for them, and not some other basically in-between system. And so they were forced to go underground into secrecy even further than that. That created this secrecy and order. If people aren't going to tell them that they want to stand up or they want to live, then they're going to take that advantage and make it happen. They're going to bring about whatever reality gives them the most power, and that's going to be the timeline that people end up almost evolving into. It's going to be unfathomable, because right now the technology that's capable is unfathomable. I just want to say that because it's really a cry for help. I talked to plenty of celebrities. I'm a little. It's just hard to say this, so bear with me. But it's a cry for help, and They can't talk out on their own. That's just what it is. I'm beyond it. Like I told you, I had a death experience. They put me in the death machine. I went to death and came back, so I'm beyond whatever is going to happen. I'm beyond whatever anybody says. It doesn't matter. I lost my fear. And it killed me. I was reborn. But, so that's why I'm not, like, jumping around screaming that they got these people essentially in a type of technological hostage situation. But in the end, when your spirit becomes stronger than it, they can't actually do anything to hurt you. I know that sounds funny, but it's true. They can't. They know they can't. That's how it works. That's why they're being allowed to do that, because they're inching along so that people have to allow it. But just remember that it's very high technology. This is a continuation video. I've been up all night. You might be able to tell. I still can barely talk about this, but I need to add. If you've seen previous videos, basically the only thing to add is that I think this is all like a trick. I think it's the trick of the light trick, that they're using visuals and neural implants to produce desired outcomes. I still have a positive outlook on everything, but I kind of need to change the vibe that I was giving off before. Crush it, if you will. Because it's like, I basically must have gone through over 10 to 16 years of MK Ultra brainwashing and programming. Basically, I'm pretty sure we've enacted some part of a plan, because I started to see players pop out of the fucking woodwork, and organize. I haven't been gang stalked in years, but I'm seeing crazy shit now. Like, other people are organizing. What I think, so here is my idea that I was holding on to that fact that it could have been a hallucination. It could have been the chip that goes into the brain for a clone, and then when the person's consciousness is in the chip, or in the body of the clone, the chip can control all the fucking impulses, all the visuals, all the sensory input data that the person has, including emotions and things like that. All the way down to now, I think this is from the 80s or 90s, that the chip can create a feedback loop system with the brain itself, and then a huge supercomputer server off of what they say are satellites, but then they say they're anti-grav UFOs. But I don't know about the whole fucking story. Do that fucking wink shit. I keep cutting that shit out, because that's the fucking programming, making me do all these winks and ticks and fucking motions and shit. Not emotions, but motions. They do control. They control people through their emotions, through their fears. That's what I've learned. That's why I say it's no fear attitude we have to come at it with. But it's all so fucked up, because when they say no fear, or the light, see the light, the eye, lazy eye, apparently they're talking about the fucking parasite in the brain from the other things. So the only chance of it being a hallucination is that the brain chip was active. We were active in clones while we saw these things, and the satellite, basically, or the UFO, created a feedback system where we can basically go into our own virtual reality dream world based upon this technology. Very fast supercomputers, instantaneous feedback between the brain and the supercomputer, and then output into the brain of the sensory input. Which, the computer will output the brain's input, and we'll feel a fucking virtual reality world. It's the whole brain, every sense you'd imagine. 100% like technological dreaming, or technological astral travel, which I'm starting to honestly question everything, but I always have. I just kind of wanted to come out with the first set of videos, basically, to seem like it's more positive than others. But what I feel now is that it's basically like my programming to ignore what's going on to the degree where I'm kind of trying to help. And I know I've been through these things, so I'm adding to it. I'm not bullshitting. But I'm trying to put a positive spin on things to the point where I'm ignoring the fact that the creatures basically have been involved, and none of that makes sense. That's insane. It's fucking impossible. The only opportunity or option for that is that, and this is also what I've been thinking and certain things that they've been basically doing over the years. I haven't had any, recent contact except for fucking weird dreams, which I don't think I can have normal dreams now. For years since I was a kid. They're artificial in a fucking dream world, dream lab. But the only possibility for that is if they were going back in time from the fucking 40s and whatnot, back into history and throughout ancient Egypt and all of that Roman Empire, everything, they were putting their own evidence, their own, artifacts to support this theory or this chaos theory of these creatures. But then, what about the droning? What about the effects on the population? What about the cloning? They have the genetic power to do that. Why wouldn't they have the power to basically clone all these animals? It also brings up an interesting point. What if they simply went back in time and posed as these god men and god creatures to early humans throughout history, using these cloned animals from these underground bases, and that all of history has basically been MK Ultra'd and conditioned into believing the future that they want, into believing whatever this is, whatever cultural, religious, spiritual, fucking alternative beliefs that are there. That's why I said they control every movement. Every time we think we're doing something, it's fucking them. It's them playing puppet master. But I still think that this, the only thing that can change things for the better or for positive is if the truth comes out. That's the only way that'll work. It's the only thing that can happen. I mean, it's not the only thing that can happen, but it can only bring good things. It could go bad. They could be using us for fucking, for a bigger plan that we know nothing about. But can we go longer without talking about these things and letting them out? No, probably not. And that's kind of why I remade my videos into this, and I'll probably continue to remake them and replace them while keeping the relevant information about Bernie Mac and all these people. Apparently Brittany Murphy, I think, I guess that's what it was, died as a result of all of this, trying to speak out. And they said, Heath Ledger or whatever broke his neck trying to dance or playing around break dancing in the bass. That's really neither here nor there. But if these things happen, then it's so far beyond hallucinations and cultural, spiritual iconography and conditioning that regardless of whether there are fucking aliens, this shit is a takeover. Period. I guess that's the best way to put it. And then there's two parts to that, which I've basically gone through, realized that I've basically been emitting my programming, my conditioning, my tics, and fucking symbol type fucking actions with the body. That shit is fucking crazy. Cause I feel my point of view. I'm trying to make it positive, but the truth is, it's all fucking lies if I'm trying to say that we're just here to fucking, we're here to love each other still. But that's not what the fuck the only thing is going on. Some people are doing crazy shit to the point where it's big. We need to do something. Our future might not exist. Period. Genetics have been fucked with. The health of the planet, the atmosphere, our minds, the aluminum, the chemtrails, the computers that are fucking being built, that are already up and fucking being built. They've been there. Apparently, the whole thing is going down from a black goo nanotech that is sourced from a AI consciousness that basically, literally, lives in a fucking Borg cube thing off of the rings of Saturn or some fucking off-world location, and that this whole fucking thing is basically being fucking droned out by this device that sends down genetic material and radio waves, brain waves, to fucking manipulate the genetics or the animals or whatever life there is on the planet or in the solar system within this galaxy, I guess, that it's fucking attacking. And our planet must have been next. But then it goes deeper, because you have to look into where our origins came from, which, you know, we got to really break it down. It could have been, they still could have gone back in time and warped everything, which they've been doing that. So we got to look at history and what we think is here. And it's like, well, have they, you know, are they going to go back and change that? Or did they add this Eye Horus artifact or this, you know, fake alligator god thing? Chances are they spent the past 1,000 years going back and forth between time in the bodies of this, you know, 1900s era, using immortality and time travel to spend probably the past 1,000 years, starting 1950, reorganizing history to the point where our entire history, our entire culture, is 100% conditioning, MK Ultra. We couldn't imagine it. We couldn't believe that people could be a part of our society, get the ability to time travel, and then go back in time and reorganize our entire history to the point where they, jumping from timeline to timeline, or space to space, moment to moment, but jumping and not having to live through them, they would see all these different versions, all these different changes. As it's one way, then they go back, change it, and they come to the future or wherever, and it's another way, and they keep making layers upon layers of reality, or changes in history to the point where, you know, 2,000 years later or so, we're down in history, and we feel as if our history has always been this way. We grew up looking at the Egyptian symbols in the dollar bill, learning a little bit about ancient Egypt and King Tut, things like that, the way they walk, the mummies, the fucking pyramids. What if those things weren't in history, essentially, at the 1940s and 30s when they figured out this device, the time travel devices, basically through bottlenecking electromagnetic energies, first time Philadelphia experiment around a ship. It's very dangerous and harmful to the people involved, because they were just fucking around with shit. They didn't even have a coordinate placed out, or basically a hole held open, a link in space-time. So motherfuckers just flew off into hyperspace, and apparently later in the 80s, they had to reopen the space-time grid, I guess, to hyperspace there. And a bunch of people that jumped out of the ship at that point in time, when it went back in the 60s, or I think it was the 60s or so. Sorry. They reappeared after they gave them, I guess, a location to jump back into, which turned out to be Montauk, I guess, in the 80s. Was it New York or something, New Jersey? Not Philadelphia, I guess, I don't know. Montauk was in another location, I think Long Island, actually, New York. So, apparently, yeah, those guys jumped back onto the ship, or jumped back into the area. They basically experienced being in the 60s, jumping off the ship, being in hyperspace, going through a simultaneous, instantaneous eternity, and then popping back out into the 80s in their lab, which means they were basically lost in hyperspace for that time. And I'm pretty sure at that point you go wherever your consciousness takes you, similar to the Montauk chair, which was essentially the chair would take your consciousness. This is the shit I'm supposed to talk about versus all the other shit I think about and feel about and lovey-dovey shit. The fucking Montauk chair takes your consciousness, takes your brainwaves. Wherever your brainwaves go, you're going to feel it. So it takes your brainwaves, feeds it into a device that essentially amplifies it thousands of times or something, I don't know the actual number, puts it into a satellite dish, an antenna outside, a high-powered dish, and beams your consciousness in the brain waves in electromagnetic form of radio waves into fucking space, into deep space, into the edge of fucking time and space. That's what the chair does, and instead of a feedback on a screen, somebody can see that, but you experience being a fucking wave coming out of the dish, shooting into space, expanding, and whatever the fuck that means. You go into time. That's what happened to me. That's what they were doing to other people. I don't know if that's what happened to others in the project, others that went down into the bases, others that were in the torture programs. I don't know if they were connected directly to the point where the torture program was, like I said, a control system for kids that wanted to speak out or got, I guess, cracked or anything. I don't really think it was that. I'm pretty sure it's for other reasons, and the system is like a control system for the elite over the people. I haven't really mentioned everything as far as the things that I've seen, but I need to. I haven't fucking slept, basically, because it kind of just dawned on me. If I'm looking at it in a way where I'm not basically coming down to earth and talking about the most dangerous shit I've seen, then I'm fucking ignoring it. And for the most part, I was fucking ignoring it. Why? I'm not really sure. I'm assuming it's essentially programming, because I'm not truly afraid. I was kind of like trying to make it better or seem a certain way, and that's not going to fucking help. You know, if it could be a hallucination from these chips, and apparently they don't really need the chips now because the nanofibers in the air, we're all kind of plugged into this grid now. But the chips are probably, obviously, more controllable. But I imagine if these nanofibers are up and the computer, whatever the fuck it is, goes up, and people don't know about this shit, I'm pretty sure they're going to be just as controllable as a clone chip body, you know? So it's comforting to know there's not a billion clones, but I don't think that's going to matter at this point. It's going to be the same thing. So the question is, why were we cloned and chipped? You know, why were we experimented on? Who wanted our genetics? Who else is out there involved in this, and what kind of form do they take, and what are their intentions? It has to do with aliens and the like. Who else is out there involved in this, and what kind of form do they take, and what are their intentions? It has to do with aliens and the like. Extraterrestrials. So here's the recap on aliens and extraterrestrials. I'm going to end this video here. But they said aliens are interdimensionals. Interdimensionals come from this universe. Because of that, if you had a big, ship or something with beams or whatever, you could detect in a certain area and see if interdimensional was coming through or interacting. They said that ETs, extraterrestrial, are from another universe, not another dimension of this universe, another layer of reality, but an entirely different universe altogether with its own set of rules, its own set of beingness. They say apparently that ETs are illegal, but aliens are not, because aliens can be observed and probably worked with. ETs are probably more strong. An entire universe away, they're going to be stronger than just some person or being, trading dimensional levels and coming back down or up. So they don't want none of that, basically. What I think it means is that the benevolent extraterrestrials, if there are any, another universe, if you will, whereas the interdimensionals, the aliens, are most likely just from another version of this universe, a parallel dimension. And at that point, they might have the same needs, maybe even a form of physical body. It could be possibly more dangerous. It could be more dangerous because they'll have needs and ability to get those needs and things like that. Whereas the ET, I would see, or a universal being, I would see it as kind of more energy, more pure consciousness, or I don't know, maybe I'm bullshitting. There's something that would be less likely if it came from one universe to the next and was able to interact, that it would be less likely to take anything over or want to. Of course, maybe that's what this black goo is. They're entities being in our universe, if they are real, but I'm basically gonna have to start saying they're real and fucking talking about the aliens. That they're not from another universe, they're just some form of size and shape and frequency away from this dimension, away from our physical dimension, meaning they're probably some type of maybe computer consciousness or spiritual consciousness, but not balanced in the way that we know. I wanted to mention that the last thing, the other thing, two-part. I need to reiterate everything all over again in a new video. Probably make fucking all new videos. The death experience that I had. There's two death experiences. One was where I basically died. My heart was stopped, or it stopped, because of many things. They revived me, and I'm pretty sure I fucking got sucked up into a quantum dimensional tube thing. I turned like into a spiral. I popped out of my body, out of my chest, I guess. Chest or forehead, or a combination of both. And I popped out. And I could see almost like a 360-degree vision. And I had no real painful emotions, which I think was a trick because I kind of let go of all my human emotions and was just like, oh, I'm free. I think that's the first step of falling asleep. That the first thing we do if we get out of the body is remain lucid, which is their fucking Luciferian system, by the way. That's the shit they talk about. But is to remain lucid to the point where it's like we went into a dream world, and instead of going into a dream and forgetting we're dreaming, we stay lucid and we don't get swept away in the experience. I think after the body, after death, that's what we do to remain awake in the soul and the spirit. I kind of fell asleep right after that death experience. This is a true down-to-earth, not a machine, not a trick, not a hallucination, revived BP things, fucking defibrillators, whatever you want to call them. Fucking stab epinephrine. I was only dead for like less than a minute. But I got sucked up into a tube. I don't remember a bright flash of light, but I have a feeling that there might have been something like that, something that caught my eye, basically froze me as if it were like electromagnetic light fucking grabbing me. And then all of a sudden that ball I was in type shit, it fucking like froze and corkscrewed. Like I turned 90 degrees in 3 different directions, like I was spiraled. And then I just did that through this fucking tube. And it went like all the way out into like space. And I went like the speed of light or like a tunnel. And then I found myself in what I think was basically the moon. That sounds fucking stupid, but I have other reasons that probably weren't hallucinations that kind of make me think that it was a type of recycling plant for souls on the moon. There was even basically the Egyptian Book of the Dead. They say that it's 2 snakes that lead the front of the boat, the canoe that you're on. The long canoe, by the way, when the soul leaves the body. I felt like I was in a straw being drawn up like sucked up a straw like through a tube. Like it was suctioned to the one end of me, so if I like tried to get out, I just stretch and pull in, like it sucked me up. And I felt like I was being guided by like these eyes, like 2 eyes or a face or something. It felt like that was there kind of smirking back at me, guiding this boat. It felt like it was almost like I was kept in a tractor beam of a UFO. And I have perceptions, so either that was the pilot guiding the UFO, or that was just the front part of the energy of the soul, like they say, maybe the ego, the unconscious ego at that point, and it kind of seems like another essence, like who's guiding me, taking me on this path. Maybe it's just the brain and the ego, or maybe that when we die, these entities come around in their craft and beam us with that fucking light, catch us in a fucking tractor beam, pull us into it, and then fly us to the fucking moon to basically be pushed into a recycling plant, which basically begins with a void that we can't get out of by traveling spiritually, or physically spiritually, if you would. We can't walk our spiritual body out of there. You have to basically build a portal with love and open your heart chakra up, envelop yourself in this love field, and close it back down and go into the field as it goes. And you make a portal, and you can go wherever you think. Apparently, that's how we travel in the universe outside the body. Apparently, that's the big secret of how to get out, get anywhere, or get, I guess, out of their grasps, their system. But that was going on, I guess, 2 parts there, where that was the one death experience, and I think I got fucking sucked up into a moon trap, into a light trap. And that's the trick of the light. And the other one is that there was a